back, everybody, to Find Your Whys. How are you doing this week, Yndhira?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Welcome, everybody, to another episode. I'm Yndhira, your leadership coach.
And I'm Yvonne. I'm a financial life coach. We had so much fun last week. We had a guest. It was fantastic. I know we've got more guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. So you guys, everybody watch out for that. A lot of interesting things coming up. So this, we talked about at the beginning of the year, was it the end of last year? I don't remember, about things like our word of the year.
Beginning of the year.
Yes. And I have been failing at simplifying like I want to. So I figured this week, it was my week to think of a topic. And so we're kind of going to be talking about that, to simplify our lives a little bit, encourage myself to get more on it and encourage others to do it too. But we're not going to be just talking about, like people are thinking right now, it's spring cleaning. Everybody's doing that sort of thing. We're not talking just simplifying cleaning your house, because there's so much more to simplifying your life than just a clean house.
Yes.
Looking forward to this.
Yep. When I was preparing for this episode, I heard this phrase from Leonardo da Vinci that says, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
Yes.
And it was kind of, wow, what a nice way to put it. And it's because, and that's something that we talk consistently in the podcast, it's not just about being minimalistic. It's about to spend time, allocate time for the things that are really meaningful and add value to those things that really matter. But the only way that we can do that is if we remove a little bit of the clutter that we have on other areas of our life.
Well, and I figured it was a perfect time too, because it is spring. And I'm sorry, guys, but I have been sick. So I have a runny, itchy nose. So I do apologize ahead of time. But it is spring.
Yes.
So people are spring cleaning and lightening their loads in so many ways. And it really got me thinking about the psychology behind it. Why does everybody spring clean? It's not just because everybody's cluttered up in the wintertime, houses are getting dirty or so they feel. There is a total psychology behind the idea of simplifying. And when I started looking into it more, I realized that was kind of a catalyst for me. And I didn't even know it, is the psychology about simplifying.
That's interesting. And let me tell you that I was reading some information that, that they always say that people from the Nordic part of the world, they are happier. But one of the main reasons is because they have a simpler way of living.
Very true.
And they focus more on things that are more meaningful, the time that they spend with nature. And it's you that shouldn't be saying that, because you have that background.
I do. And it's funny that I think it does kind of play into my psychology and, the way I was raised. And I didn't realize that a lot of what leads to people wanting to simplify, especially in the spring, and part of it is coming out of that hibernative, way of living in the wintertime, is, but the psychology behind it, like I was saying, is there's a burnout culture. And that's what got me to start simplifying my life. And now how we put that all together, let me make this sense for you guys, is I was working all the time. I was going through a whole bunch of stuff in my life, and I was always giving. And, I was always looking to achieve more, to do all these things until I totally burned out. And through all that, I also had a lot of decision fatigue. And I'm sure a lot of people have gone through that, where you've got a million things going on in your life and you've got a million decisions to make in your life. And pretty soon you're like, I don't even know what I want for dinner. And when that started happening to me, I was like, I have got to figure this out. I really do. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to simplify. And it had absolutely nothing to do with my house or simplifying my house. Although, like I said, my culture, I have a Norwegian background, it is a simpler life. Everybody talks about my grandpa being very stoic. Well, he wasn't mean or unemotional. It's just, he showed emotion when it mattered. And it's kind of the same thing. It's the whole way of living our life. It is more to focusing on what matters. So today we're going to be giving you a lot of ideas on how to do that in all kinds of aspects in your life.
Amazing. One thing that I was going to mention, that for everything there's a study. And you said the psychology behind. Also, there's a study that they have done. For example, at the Princeton University, they found out that people that spend too much time with visual stimulus, it's harder for them to make decisions, and also for the brain to focus. So that's also one of the things. the more things we have to make a decision, the harder it is to make those decisions. So the
Yep.
moment that you simplify, it even helps you to make better decisions. But also, let's say, for example, your schedule. If you have a more organized and simple schedule and you know what you want, it's easier for you to say no. Like a Harvard University study shows, it makes it easier to make decisions for the things that are meaningful.
Yep. And a schedule that is echoing. Are we okay there?
Yes.
Okay. I heard myself. I've done a couple of group things in my Facebook group about simplification, and a lot of it is cutting stuff out. Like you said, it's not just about focusing on what matters, but when you're organized, that is huge. I know I have ADHD. If anybody has listened to this podcast at any given time, should know this by now. And so there are times that my life can get a little disorganized and chaotic. And I'm telling you, it just causes chaos mentally and physically for me. So yes, having organized a schedule, having an organized home is definitely part of it. But a lot of it comes back to even organizing your mind, as that might sound.
Yes. And I was even mentioned before the podcast, Yvonne, that I have so many noise and different things in my life at this moment that it has caused me to reduce some of the activities that I was doing, simplify them. So I'm able to make better decisions and focusing on the things that are more important.
Absolutely. So, like I said, guys, I am so sorry. But, talking about the schedule, let's go back to that, is ways to organize and simplify it. One that I struggle with, we've talked about this several times, and I think you might also, because just the type of people that we are, is learning to say no.
Yeah.
That is so hard.
Yes.
It is, because we want to be available to everybody and everything, not realizing that when we start doing that, we're actually less present, because we're giving so much of ourselves to too many things. So that when we are there, we're not really there. A lot of times we're thinking about the next thing we have to do, the next place we have to be. And so we're actually not happier. We're more stressed, less organized. But saying no is so hard.
Wow. I think I have here several things about this week. Maybe too much, because I was having this conversation with my sister recently. And she was saying that that's one of the things that she needs to learn. And I said, do I know how to say no? Yndhira, really? Yes, if I ask you and tell you, hey, can you give me money for the vacation of my kids? If it's not in your plan, you're going to say no. What? This gave me another thing, and which is this, that when you have clarity of what you want or where you're going for, it helps you to say no to people and not feel guilty. And that's one of the things that women, we suffer a lot.
Oh, yes.
Because we feel guilty to make decisions for ourselves. And sometimes it's not what you say that you say no, it's more than the way you say it. We tend to give too much explanation. And maybe sometimes just saying, I have another plan, it's more than enough. And we don't let other people to start fixing our life. So that's one important thing, to have clarity, and that helps you when you have to say no.
That is huge, is knowing your intentions, valuing what's important, and sometimes we don't even understand when we don't say no to some things and we're starting to say yes to everything, then we're giving equal value to everything that shouldn't have equal value.
That's true.
And we need to stop doing that, because there are things that we allow in our lives that shouldn't be given the importance that we give them, simply because we don't say no.
But maybe you open the door, a wider door to something that is not important, and closing the door to the opportunity to the things that really matter.
Exactly, because if you are overscheduled, over everything, you're too full. Yes. to allow the good things in that need to be there. And that happens a lot, with people, with jobs, with relationships, with all kinds of things. If we're always holding on to things that aren't giving us the value in the return that we need to get from them, that's taking up space for things that really do improve us, that make us happier, that improve our lives.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. I love it. So, in what other areas? For example, you mentioned the schedule. Another thing also that will be important, also even with our finances.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. Now, a lot of people live in chaos in their finances. That's not unusual at all.
And that's
It's really
because we don't simplify, and maybe we focus on many things and not, simplifying could be really a good way. And also, like you always mention, track our budgets, track our expenses,
right.
because that will help us to measure and things the area that we need to work on.
Exactly. And budgeting is huge. That really does. I mean, that's like setting up any type of schedule in a sense. Your budgeting is going to put everything into perspective where it needs to be. And you should budget with intention, and make sure you budget in there a little bit of fun money, all that kind of stuff. And that's a great, great place to start. But that doesn't necessarily simplify your finances. I've said this before, gosh, I don't even remember what episode it was, but a huge thing that people have going on that they don't even realize is how many subscriptions that they have out there that they don't even know about.
Yeah.
So you need to declutter your financial obligations. And well, to realize where your money is going, but also, even if you know where every dollar is being spent, does it all need to go to where it's going?
I can tell you that one of my experience when I started doing that exercise a few years ago, I sat down and I reviewed what I was paying in insurance and everything. And I checked everything. I said, it doesn't make sense that the car that I was using at the time, I pay more of insurance throughout the year than the value of the car. And I said, no way. I reduced my insurance significantly. I pay whatever I had pending for the car, at least, and then I reduced my insurance. I said, I prefer to put that money aside. And if the car broke or something, I prefer to go and buy another car because it was a cheap car. So it doesn't make sense how much I was paying for insurance. So, but only I came to that exercise when I started looking at everything and said, okay, and judging and being intentional, like you mentioned, of how I was allocating my money.
Well, and it's not even necessarily diminishing insurance, or lowering the premium. Shop around. At least every 2 years, shop around for insurance needs, because, well, as we all know, so many things are going on in the insurance industry. If people talk about State Farm being one that had to stop giving insurance to people's houses in California, something, I don't remember the whole detail, but there are things that happen with insurance companies and decisions that they make outside of US regulations that each company has to determine for themselves how they're going to continue running business. And so their changes internally in their business can make an effect on your insurance. So definitely shop around insurance.
Yeah,
every
that's
couple
good
years.
idea.
Something else, and it's, I don't know if you've noticed, but I love tiny houses. Have you noticed a tiny house revolution going on in the world? A lot of people are buying smaller houses or even tiny houses. And I love that. And it's showing that there is a shift to a need-based mindset in living. And that is another way that you can really get control of your finances and simplify your finances, is to really start making a difference in your mind. And it is going to be a mindset shift that's going to have to take place. Sorry, but when cold medicine starts to kick in, my mouth doesn't work as well. So I do apologize again. But, really start thinking about the things that you need versus the things that you want. And that is really hard. I don't know. I know we've talked about Marie Kondo a few times on this, and it's, let go of anything that doesn't bring you joy. And there's a meme that you see all the time on Facebook that's like, if I let go of everything to bring me joy, I would be sitting alongside the road with my dog and my coffee maker. And it's funny when you say it and everybody laughs, but if you actually stop and think about it, it makes sense. Yes. Because if you really could put it in perspective of the things that do bring you joy or the things that you just need, our lives would be, that alone is going to simplify your finances. It's going to simplify your home. It's going to simplify your attention. It's going to simplify so many things that it really makes sense. Keep what brings you pleasure. Don't. And it's funny because I can relate to this because growing up, I came from nothing, absolutely nothing. That's a whole story in itself. And as I grew and matured and finally got a really good job and made all the money, I started buying things to make up for the fact I didn't have anything as a kid. Again, there's a psychology behind that. But then I got to a point in my life, and I'm kind of there now, is I have a bunch of stuff and it's just taking up space. So it does clutter my home. It clutters my mind.
Yeah.
It clutters my attitude in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So simplification in every aspect of your life, I think, is really necessary. And I think it's something that we should do. I would love to say once a year, but that's probably not realistic for most people. But every couple of years, it's time to start looking at your finances, your house, your everything, and declutter it.
Yeah. I like that. I definitely relate, especially with the house. If my house is disorganized, I I feel overwhelmed.
Me
I
too.
don't feel the same. And when I clean, I don't know, there's the freshness or something, especially
Yes.
in this winter that you in spring that you can open the windows and stuff like that. That really shifted my energy every time that happens. In one area that I would also like to mention that simplification is important is in your work environment. Oh
100%.
my
I'm glad you
God.
brought that up.
We are so overwhelmed with meetings, with emails, with
Yes.
communication, spending time, and that really reduces significantly
Mhm.
our performance. They said there's a study that said that 20%, 28% of our time during the week we are using it just reviewing emails, which
Yes.
is like 13 hours a week. That's too much. And
Way
especially
too much.
when we have so many things to do and we have so many priorities. And I know there's one of my team that she sometimes goes to me and she asks me, you tell me this huge list, which one is the priority? And I say, okay, there's maybe 1A, 1B, 1C, but most of them are priority one, which is almost impossible that you're able to do it. And when is that the case, people are less productive. So there's so many things that we can do in our work environment. For example, we can switch instead of focusing on how busy we are, prioritize.
Mhm.
Because there's this book that I read about the one thing. And if every day, for example, I say, what is the one thing that I can do that it really brings value? That should be the first thing that we should focus on.
Yes.
Simplify communication, for example. By having so many meetings, we can reduce the amount of meetings and maybe having voice note or a spreadsheet that we distribute with everyone's responsibility and the task, and we just follow up throughout the week and have just one meeting to go and focus on that.
Yep.
And one important one as a leader is let go and delegate.
Yes.
That is huge.
And that
That
is
we
really
can
hard
do.
for some people.
Yes, exactly.
And
So
it's really important because any leader, and whether it is a work environment, which it's enormous in a work environment, but a leader in any situation, whether it's your church, your home, your community, whatever, there are really basic first steps that any leader can put into place to help simplify. And that is to make sure that they've defined their values, what is expected in their priorities, and then set your mission. It really is basic and simple steps that they can do. We get caught up in the minutia of every single day. And like you said, it's, I had a thought, I have to send an email, don't do that. There are a million ways to get around that. And, how many times have we gone into work on a Monday and just thought about, I want to open my emails because it's going to be this list.
just true. Significantly, it makes a significant impact, especially when we're able, as the leader, like I was mentioned, if instead of being, because at the end we set the pace of the
Yes.
organization. So if we focus on a little bit of more simplification and be more strategic, that will
Mhm.
give us even more time for us to lead better with the
Absolutely.
delegation. And like you mentioned, for example, at home, it's something that I'm also working with my kids. I was struggling giving them tasks. Hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. I bought a calendar. I put it on the refrigerator, and they know what they have to do. I also downloaded an app so they can have their task, and that is helping me. That simple simplification is helping me not to be fighting with them every time that they playing video games and something is pending. They already know it's pending, so I don't have to go to that fight.
Well, and something else that you can do as a leader at work or even at home, especially this is really good with little kids. We get so frustrated with having sometimes little kids, they don't know what to do. The best thing you can do is to limit options. And even for myself, like right now, I'm really wanting to repaint the inside of my house because it is very beige. which is, it's fine, but it needs to be repainted. And so when I go to a store and I start to look at all of the color options, I get incredibly overwhelmed. And the same thing can happen to our employees if we give them options, our children, ourselves, so simplify the options can make everything so much smoother and easier, and it's true too when you're going out on a date, which I don't know anything about. But, guys are always wondering when, where do you want to eat? And the girl's like, well, I don't know. You have 50 restaurants in a town and you want her to make that decision. Simplify it for her. You want Italian, you want Mexican, you want Chinese.
Yeah. And they said that, for example, too much, like you mentioned, they said if the more options you put, the craziest it's to make the decision. So, but then it's easier if you can just, say, reduce it to 3 or 4 things.
Yeah.
Because the problem is that sometimes, and one important thing is that, for example, now that you have to paint your house, once you paint it, you get stuck with that color. So sometimes we have the fear of missing out.
First.
Yeah, exactly. We have the fear of missing out because there's so many options. If I pick the wrong option, but if we just pick that option and move forward, it's just something that I decided I have to live with that. That it's going to make our life easier, because if we know that we have to, for example, reverse it or change it, we're always going to be guilty. Did I make the right decision?
Yeah. I know when I was in real estate, one thing I would do with people that were having a really tough decision about choosing a house is I always had printouts of the houses that they liked the best. And I would say, pick your top 3. And then we'd be like, okay, pick your top 2. And then if they couldn't decide, I'd be like, okay, well, which house would you be really disappointed that you couldn't live in? So simplifying the choices, giving limited options is a huge simplifier in our lives, because otherwise it can just bring so much confusion and chaos.
Yes. Yeah.
And that in itself is limiting options can be applied to almost every aspect of your life.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the biggest things that you can do.
And what about mentally and emotionally? How can we simplify when we're struggling or our physical body?
Well,
definitely.
I mean, one of the big ways that you can do it is when you're really emotionally overwrought, is totally step away from it and rest.
Yeah.
Because when we are entangled emotionally in too many things, or sometimes even one big thing, everything, even a little thing, feels ginormous.
Yes.
And so sometimes you just need to separate yourself from it and just take a nap.
Yeah. Yeah. And even sometimes even cry or do something or let the emotions get out.
Absolutely.
So you're able to free that, and that will help you make a better decision. Because especially when we are too emotional, it's too heavy.
It is.
And we affect not just ourselves, but also the people around us.
Yep.
And then we create more chaos than the one that we wanted. So practice mindfulness, spend time with yourself to be able to make the decisions that it really helps you. I remember my chiropractor always told me, I said, I feel a little stressed during COVID. Oh my gosh. I said, I have pain in my back. I have pain everywhere. I said, I need to meditate. I said, you just need to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do you know how to breathe? I said, yeah, no.
Most people don't. That sounds so weird, but they don't.
And he said, if you wanted to remember yourself, put a B everywhere in the wheel, in your car. As soon as you take in the wheel, you say, put a B. And that will remind you at that moment, okay,
yep,
that deep breath. Not like that, but it was a little shallow. But that's it, yeah. And once you do that, it becomes a habit. And just that simple thing helped me throughout that process of COVID to be more grounded. That would say.
Well, and if you do have a lot of decisions to make, you're feeling overwhelmed and mentally exhausted, you are going to, again, to simplify, you're going to have to break it down, prioritize, and tackle the things that have to be done now. Tackle those first. The best thing you can do is just take it one at a time. If there are things that can be put off or not done at all, get rid of them. They're taking up space that you don't need. So like all of this can be put into every aspect of our lives. It's just, it sounds so simple, but it actually is, you
Yes.
know?
I like that you said that, because there's one thing that I also apply when I have my mind, like it can barely rest. I write down the things that I have to do, and that gives me like peace, because already I know it's there. Because sometimes you continue, if you have things to do, you continue putting it in the front just so you don't forget. But as soon as you write it down, it really helps you
Exactly.
to your mind to relax, because it's a place that I can go and find it when I need it. It doesn't have to go put it in the forgetting file.
Yeah, but I think something that a lot of people do is they're going to start writing down everything that needs to be done, and then they're going to sit down and they're going to schedule it out, and pretty soon you just complicated your life.
For me, just write it down. If I put it over there, I know. Yeah, when I have to go back and work on that, yeah, I know it's there.
Yeah.
I remove it from my head at that moment, because at that moment I'm not thinking about how and when. It's more all the other things that I have to do. I need to clean, I need to do this, I need to do that, and it's a whole list.
Yeah.
So
Well, and we can overwhelm ourselves, by thinking, like you said, of all the things that have to be done. And when it sounds really counterintuitive, but when you're trying to simplify, sometimes you do have to do a lot of work really quick at once in order to simplify it. Like if you're going to simplify and declutter your house, you're gonna have to pull everything out. That's a lot of work.
No.
But once you get it done, and gotten rid of things, same thing with our life. If you're thinking emotionally of all the things that I have to take care of, pull it all out and be like, okay, let's prioritize, let's get this done, so that you can go on and have a smoother life, a more simplified home, whatever it is that you're wanting to tackle and simplify. Be prepared. It might take a lot of work at first.
Yes.
To get to where you're needing to go.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to wake up and be like, oh, my house is simplified.
No, but I can tell you one of the things that I remember I did that once, at least with my room, my closet and everything. It was when I was moving to Canada, and I said, no, I have so many stuff that I barely used. I said, not again. So now every time, for example, I know I have a basket, so I put things for donation, and I say, okay, I don't want this more. I continue putting it there, and it's easier when I have to do it than taking it all at once. Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming.
Well, see, and that's the great thing, is that once you get to that point where you can breathe, then you can know not to get to there again. And then you set up systems to keep you from getting there again. Because doesn't that feel so good? I mean, whether it is the house, the emotions, or whatever, when it's just calm, it's peaceful.
Yes.
It feels amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So definitely another thing that I would like to mention is digital detox. There's so much stuff that we spend so much time in social media, bombarded with so much information. And I know we talk about this in every podcast, and surprisingly, we are in the digital world as well, but we have to be intentional and mindful of how we use our time. Because we're talking about schedule, but if you start measuring how many hours do you spend in a day connecting in social media, watching Netflix, and doing this and doing that, that is a time that you can dedicate for something that is more meaningful.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I did for a few months, it was that I have a time limit for myself.
Yes.
And after that, now I go to social media, I go specific to the things that I have to go through, but I don't spend hours. But it took me a time for me to control myself.
Yes.
Before I'm at this point that I am today.
But I mean, most of our phones nowadays actually have it built in that you can monitor yourself or even limit yourself how much you're on. You can have it come up on your phone and saying, okay, your time is up, to remind yourself to put it down. Exactly. And it's unfortunate that we've gotten to the point also where we're using our phones and tablets and everything else to babysit our kids. That's something that we're setting our kids up for failure by doing that. That doesn't have a lot to do with simplifying our lives, but you're talking about digital detox. It starts very young, very young.
Yeah.
I mean, how many teenagers are glued to their phones?
Yeah. And watching videos and stuff like that instead of going around and playing and enjoying life. Yeah.
You know, in my life anyways, it does feel complicated at times because you get a lot going on and you do start to think about the simpler days. And there is a yearning for that, at least for me. And it's not so much that, everybody wants to go back to the 1940s or 1950s. But when you talk about simplifying your life in the simpler days, it's because there was less chaos. There was less stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that a lot of people crave. There's just so much now, all the time. There's always something chattering at you.
Yeah.
Something in your attention span, something in your visual. It's so much. We are overwhelmed in almost every aspect of our life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be really important if you even start with just one aspect of your life. Work, house, emotions. Start somewhere and start to minimize.
Yes.
And you will see how much more peace you have.
Yeah. And that will help us to make time for things that are more important. And I can tell you, I'm one that is always, I'm in a high speed most of the time.
Yeah, me too.
And sometimes, just this Friday, we were having an audit at work. So we went to lunch while we have the lunchtime. So we went to eat something. And at the moment we're there, and I say, wow, so I'm trying to get order. We can be fast so we can be on time in the meeting. And I was to say, why I have to always be running?
Right.
Slow down, relax, enjoy the food. I have to smack myself many times to help me slowing down. And I have also my sister that she reminds me most of the time, hey, you can slow a little bit. It doesn't have to go that fast. You're going to get to the same place anyways. So,
and the reason that we're doing that is because we have filled our lives with so much stuff that we have to do and take care of, and we got to go and make time for everything. If we actually took some time and sat down and thought about what we're missing out on because of all of the filler stuff we have in our lives, that might change your perspective a little bit too.
Yes. It will be a significant difference. I like that.
So what other aspects of your life do you think you need to simplify, or do you think we've hit everything? I mean, I know I could have notes. I've got like 5 pages of notes that we don't need to go over everything, because then the show would go on forever.
No, I think we've covered most of the important things, because we're talking about more of the foundation and pillars, and then you go and you put it in other areas of your life. Like I said, I was amazed listening to an audio of how in the Nordic country, how they even the decoration of their house, they make it more simple. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
mine's still kind of cluttered because I do like all the snow stuff I need to take down, but
yeah, but those type of things. And in my case, I like things more simple than everything. But the thing is, like you said, one of the things that I read was that each of anything that is in your house, if it has a meaning. So even though you say that it's clutter, each of those things have a meaning for you. So that's why it's important. And that's what we're talking about.
If you look at it like a tattoo, you wouldn't want to go and get a bunch of meaningless tattoos to have on your body. The same thing should go to the rest of your life.
Oh.
Do you want people in your life that are meaningless, or things in your home that don't have meaning? Because if I have a wall full of stuff that has no meaning to me, I'm going to miss out on seeing the stuff that I really love. Yes. Same with people. If we're filling our lives with people that are taking up time that don't bring value to our lives, we're missing out on wonderful time with people that do bring value to our lives, that people that enrich us, that we love. That happens to every aspect of your life when you start to complicate things, when you don't simplify.
Yes, that's why it's so important. Even though when we can say that this episode is simple, that's the idea, is to make it simple, to understand that there's meaning in simplicity. There's value in simplicity. And it really helps you to connect. And one important thing I would like to mention, and it's good that you're talking about relationships as well, the relationship with yourself. In order for you to simplify, you need to have awareness, because what you're doing is you're removing the noise and the clutter and just giving space for the things that have meaning in your life.
Yep. And you don't want to be that, I don't even know what it is, but how everybody talks about it. You come to the end of your life and you're like, I wish I would have. But if you're simplifying your life and making space for what really truly matters, you're going to have a lot less of those I wish I would have. moments
Yes.
comes to the end. You're going to look back with all of the wonderful memories that your home was filled with beautiful things that had meaning, with people, with space, with attitude, with everything that had meaning. And that's kind of what we're getting at with this episode. Live your life with meaning, live it with intention. And simplification of all aspects of your life is going to lead to having more meaning.
Yes.
Fill your life with value.
Yeah. So just remember, one challenge that you can take for this week is to pick one area, one thing that you will like to simplify in your life. It could be work, relationships, your schedule, your finances. And in order to do that, go and track how you're spending your time, with who are you spending your time. Let's say if it's your schedule, and question everything that is put in your schedule for at least 1 week. Questioning, is this something meaningful? What value is this bringing to me? Is this more important? Can I put something more important at this time slot instead of doing this? Start challenging each of the things for at least for that area of your life for 1 week. And once you do that, then that brings you awareness, you can start working on what I need to remove. And that will significantly impact your life, because then you say, I can do this for another area of my life. And that's when simplicity comes.
And that's going to build momentum. You're like, okay, for me, I'm going to tackle simplifying my kitchen. I have too many things. I know it sounds really weird and simple, but it is. And then once I see that, then I can move on to other aspects. And I think it's just a spring cleaning thing. I'm in that mood. I spent all week spring cleaning my yard. I'm in that mode of getting that clutter all filled out. Go into my house, and my life otherwise is pretty simple. How about you? What are you going to tackle this week?
Yeah. Me, Yndhira, or me, the audience?
You, Yndhira. What are you going to simplify this? The audience can tell us later. They can tell us in the comments. What are they going to tackle this week to simplify?
Definitely my schedule. That's something that I'm every time running. Yes, always running so fast. I really need to question my schedule. And I think that will help me in other aspects significantly. But I think if I start working on that, that'll be a drastic change in how I live my life, because it's hectic.
It is. It is. Yes. Well, and like I said, I'd love to hear from the audience and what they want to tackle this week to simplify their life, or to start simplifying their life. What means to you? What value are you going to bring by getting rid of things? I'd love to hear it. And as always, we would love for you to like and share and subscribe and let other people know about us. We, will not be in the algorithm if you don't. Something else I learned is that even if people have notifications set for YouTube, that YouTube only notifies like 25% of the people that have notifications set. So we really do need people to start liking this so that we can get out there more, because it's just not going to be out in the algorithm. And the whole reason we're doing this is just to help people a little bit in their lives, give them little pointers here or there so that they can improve their lives as much as they can, to find their whys, what matters to them.
Yes, absolutely. So remember, make a space for meaningful things. That's what we're looking for this episode. So I hope you really enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.